about ready to start. So I'd like to take this chance to introduce you to Emily Sura, who is going to be presenting on Design to Support All Educators to Transform Instruction. There are note cards and post-it notes at your table for questions should you have them, but Emily's also indicated that she's welcome to questions as you think of them, all right?
Yes.
So thank you.
Okay, hello. Give me 1 second because this isn't set up. Okay. We switched it over. So it's just identifying. Sorry about that.
So press the key immediately to the right of the shift key.
Yeah, this guy.
Okay.
Says identifying. I can just click for now. Okay, so I'll just try to come back over here and click. But thank you so much for joining us today. We are coming from Goalbook. We're headquartered in San Mateo. Like she said, we're just going to be chatting about how we can design to support all educators to transform instruction. So John D'Angelo, who some of you might know, was supposed to be presenting with me, but he had to do something else last minute. So I'll be leading the charge on my own, but I have my colleague Jenny here with me as well, and she'll be helping me out. But I work with the majority of our Northern California district partnerships. And then Jenny kind of oversees our work in Southern California. So, okay, so just to go over what we're planning on doing today with some session objectives. The first one is we're going to spend the majority of our time with the Universal Design for Learning framework. So we're going to spend some time demystifying that. I know that there might be a lot of background knowledge in the room. It can tend to be a pretty big buzzword these days, the UDL framework. So we're just going to get everyone on the same page there. The second thing we're going to do is share how we support educators in lesson planning with Universal Design for Learning in mind. And the third is just going to spend a little bit of time showing you how districts and educators use Goalbook for Universal Design for Learning lesson planning. So before we do that, I want to just quickly spend some time explaining who we are and why we do the work that we do so you know where we're coming from and why we're in the room with y'all today. So we were, both of us were former educators. Everyone on our team is former educators. I taught high school Algebra 2 in Richmond, California, and also was a soccer coach there. Jenny actually, funny enough, taught in Richmond, California as well, and I ended up teaching a lot of her same students, and we just figured that out when we both started working at Goalbook. But we're founded by 2 educators. Everyone was former teachers. All of our work is research and evidence-based, so everything we do is backed by research and evidence. We are research partners with people like CAST for the UDL framework. And then this is a little bit outdated. We're currently with about 600 districts across 46 states partnering with them. When we first started in 2011, one of the most critical shifts was more rigorous learning with these new learning standards. So it was no longer enough for students to be working bell to bell, but we really needed to dig deeper into what experts were calling cognitively demanding tasks or more rigorous learning. So at that same time, we also figured out from our research partners with CAST that every single student has unique learning processes as unique as their fingerprint, right? So variability is very much the norm, whether it be a language barrier, a behavior barrier, or need that we need to support. We should really be having that in mind as we are thinking about more rigorous learning. So that being said, that has really been the focus of our work. And this is the inquiry question that leads our work every single day, which is how can we empower educators so that all students can access grade level standard aligned instruction? Over the past few years, we've been able to see and show that teachers' understanding and ability to implement best practices like more rigorous learning or universal design for learning has significantly increased using Goalbook. We have also had third-party researchers such as WestEd validate that our support services and implementation processes are aligned to what we're doing and genuinely impacting instruction in the classroom. And San Francisco State also did a third-party research that found that educators who were using our specially designed instruction program were significantly improving the quality of their IEPs. And we used a 10-point rubric with that I'd be happy to share with whoever is interested, but it was things like, are they standard aligned? Are they aligned to present levels? Are they realistically attainable? Things like that. So all that's to say, more than a gadget or more than anything, our work really boils down to how we're supporting the teacher. Because we know, and research has shown, that the teacher is the single most important factor in the classroom that's impacting outcomes for students. So by design, everything we do is really to support the teacher in saving time and implementing best practices, and I'll show you all more of that in a little bit. I'm not sure if some of you have seen this, but I just wanted to highlight it because it was recent, but the New Teacher Project just released a study that found out of 4,000 students that they surveyed and saw in the classroom, 71% of them were succeeding on their assignments. Out of that 71%, only 17% were meeting grade level standards, right? So not even, way less than half of students are even getting access to grade level standards. Also wanted to just point this out. This was from this conference a couple years ago, but if you take a look here, this is the national goal for the average for that indicator 5 that I'm sure a lot of you have done a lot of work with. But the percent of students with disabilities who are in general education class for 80% or more of the school day. California right now is about 50%. All right, so we focus a lot with districts on how we can improve these numbers, and UDL is a great way to do that, but it's not an easy fix, right? We're talking about meaningfully including students in the least restrictive environment and shifting those mindsets and practices so we're serving all of our students. So again, just wanted to highlight this one more time and just really emphasize that all students. How can we empower educators so that all students can access that grade level standard aligned instruction? The knowing and doing gap is very difficult, right? So knowing a best practice and really sustainably being able to implement that with resources is really challenging. So we like to think of our work as kind of that instructional scaffold for teachers of helping them bridge that gap of not just knowing what a best practice is, but actually implementing it in their classroom in a habit of practice. Okay, so that's just to give you a little background of our work and why we do what we do every day. What we want to do now is, again, just demystify that UDL framework. And so what we do when we support educators at Goalbook with professional developments is we always kind of take it out of the classroom context, and then we bring it back in to build that understanding. So to do that with y'all today, it's going to get a little interactive. We are going to work with Joey. So this is Joey, and Joey does not like broccoli. I would love for a couple people to share out what are some reasons Joey might not like broccoli. Maybe it's because it looks like a tree, and a tree is not appetizing. But what are some reasons that Joey might not like broccoli? Smell, nice, yep. Texture, yep. Haven't tried it before. Color, yep. How it's prepared, cool. Yeah, so maybe he hasn't even had access to this before. Yep. Taste, yep. Mm-hmm.
Sensory feel of it.
Okay, yep, it feels weird. Might even hurt his mouth a little.
He's allergic.
Allergic, okay. Yes. Anything else? These are all great. Okay, so I'm glad you brought up allergies. What we are going to do right now is, this is a competition and there will be a prizes. So don't shout out anything yet, but I want you to think about what are some ways we can help Joey. Let's assume that there are no allergies involved. Okay, so Joey can eat the broccoli. How can we support Joey in eating this vegetable? So what you are going to do is, I'm going to give you 1 minute. You're going to partner up. I know we have a lot of people in the room, so if you need to be a group of 3, that's cool. We were going to write one idea on each Post-it, but that being said, if you run out of room, feel free to write a couple ideas on each Post-it. But you want to keep this secretive, because then you're gonna pair off with another group and do a competition. All right, so. Okay, you have 1 minute. Go. I don't know what is going on. know what I'm thinking?
I'm just gonna switch back.
Maybe.
Okay. All right. We could do it really quickly. We'll just put the.
Okay, you have 20 seconds. Alrighty, voices off, pencils down in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and 0. Okay, we're gonna try to work out the tech a little bit so it'll be clear, but for now I'll just try to give you auditory instructions. What you're gonna do is you're gonna pair off with a group, so maybe the people at your table, if you had 2 different partner groups. You get a point for each unique idea. Okay, so if you both had smell, for example, so maybe we can figure out a way to make it not smell that way. So maybe we'll steam it or something like that. Those are discarded. Those do not count. Okay, so the similar or same ideas are discarded. Okay, and then the unique ideas you keep, and then we'll figure out who has the most. All right, so take a couple minutes, figure that out, and keep your unique ideas. Thank you. All right, let's take maybe 20 more seconds. Wrap up. Make sure you have your count in your head ready to go. This is how we determine our winner. Okay, we are gonna bring it back. Okay, if you had 3 or more unique strategies, could you stand? 3 or more unique strategies. Okay. Out of those of you who are standing, I'd love to just hear some examples of some strategies.
Taste test, so show all the different ways you can do broccoli so we can sample each of the individual ones.
Nice. Getting some choice in there, some autonomy. Nice.
Pairing it with cheese or Alfredo sauce.
Awesome. Yep. Yep. And that actually can impact the taste and potentially the look of it as well. Yep.
Provide him with a preferred item after he eats it.
Okay, cool. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Make up a story where he's a giant and he can eat trees.
Yes. That's awesome. What about maybe one from the back? Oh, really? Discard. Yes, yes, definitely. Okay, 5 or more. 5 or more. Unique. Okay, 7 or more.
Oh, is it your whole table or your group?
Your group. Did I lose everyone at 7? How many did you have? 10. Awesome. Okay, there you go. What was your favorite out of the 10?
Covering it with sauces.
Covering it with sauces. Okay, awesome. You guys get a handy dandy $5 Starbucks gift card. Okay, so that was just our non-academic way of actually, without even realizing it, you just thought through the principles of universal design for learning. Okay, so putting this in the Joey context, engagement. Some of you said maybe if he's seeing his favorite athlete eating broccoli, maybe we can motivate him to eat it that way. Representation, this was alluded to a lot, but maybe he doesn't like it because it's green in a tree. So if we put it in a soup or Alfredo sauce, that representation has changed. So maybe he'll be more likely to eat that broccoli. And then action and expression. Maybe forks are really difficult for him, right? Maybe he has baby teeth or a motor barrier. So we can use a spoon or a straw or something like that and support him in changing the action of eating that. All right, so we just thought through the principles of universal design for learning in terms of Joey with broccoli. So thinking about how we can actually do that in our classroom and broaden it to an academic context, there should be some handouts on your table. And I actually think the session before us used these guidelines as well, so those might be on there as well. If you are virtual, if you just Google Universal Design for Learning guidelines, it should come up. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to show you a strategy, a UDL strategy from our Goalbook page. And then you're going to hold up a 1 if you think it's engagement, a 2 if you think it's representation, and a 3 if you think it's action and expression. And for each one of these, I'll give you like 20 quick seconds to check in with someone, see what y'all might think, collaborate, and then hold them up. Okay? Here are those guidelines: engagement, representation, action, and expression. Are we ready? Okay, so 1 for engagement, 2 for representation, 3 for action and expression. The first one is a read aloud. So this doesn't necessarily need to mean that students are sitting on a rug and a teacher is reading aloud out of a big book. Think about like how text is being read aloud in your classroom. Okay, is it being read, or maybe you using popcorn with your different students, or maybe it's being read from an audio book, CD or book. Okay, so think about that. Maybe take 20 seconds to chat with someone and then hold up 1, 2, or 3. All right, once you've thought about it, go ahead and hold them up. 1, 2, or 3. Okay. Okay. Cool, cool, cool. For someone who's holding up 1, would you mind just sharing why you might think that is? 1. Yep.
I set up 1 because when I do read aloud, depending on what I'm reading, and this is just one example, but sometimes I will leave off the, like if it's a poem, I'll leave off the rhyming word and have the kids finish that line.
Awesome. Yep, so you're engaging them in that way and you're bringing them into it. That's great. And then maybe one other who might have said 2 or 3. Yes.
Well, for representation, I was thinking like if you were using like Snap and Read or something like that, the students who had difficulty reading it would be able to use that so that they could still access it being read aloud to them because they might not be able to read the text.
Definitely, yep. Giving them that auditory as opposed to the visual, definitely. Okay. Thinking about, there we go, sentence starter. So a sentence starter or a sentence frame, providing those for your students. 1, 2, or 3. So again, you can chat about it and then hold it up. Okay? Cool. Mm-hmm.
He's just saying for the virtual people, I'm going to try and walk around for people
Okay.
with answers to
Okay.
give them the mic.
Cool.
So I think otherwise.
Okay, perfect. Okay, go ahead and hold them up if you haven't already. 1, 2, or 3. Awesome, awesome. Okay, I see a number of 3s. Would someone want to share why for this one? For the sentence starters? Why this might be a 3, action and expression. Yep.
Participate and produce. Oh, there you go. You want me to repeat that whole thing? But if a student can't produce a sentence independently, you give them the sentence with maybe a word missing, so they're participating and they're producing. You've altered the output demand, basically.
Mm-hmm. Yep, definitely. And did I see a 2 maybe? Yeah?
I was thinking that
Hang on, sorry. Just for the virtual folks, we want to get the microphone involved.
So I was thinking that if, depending on the learning style of the student, if they're auditory or a visual learner, they may need, if the teacher is using that frame, as an instructional concept, then the sentence is there for them also. Because sometimes students may not be engaged, right? Looking around and then, they're looking at the frame. And that will engage them.
Definitely. Awesome. Thank you. We have one more just to think about, a learning log. So if you're providing students with a learning log, whether or not we think that's 1, 2, or 3. So again, we can chat, collaborate a little bit, and then hold them up. Yep, so you can think about like a graphic organizer where they're writing down their thoughts or anything like that. Some type of organizer for them. Alrighty, once y'all have chatted about it, 1, 2, or 3. Okay. So mainly 3s. Yep. Okay, awesome. So as you've probably figured out, and I tried to hear opinions from people in different numbers, it's really not about, a lot of these strategies can fit into multiple guidelines. So it's really not about like where one strategy fits, whether it's expression or representation or engagement. What it really matters is like the intent and the delivery, right? So popcorn might be being used in your classroom to make sure students are staying engaged, something like that. Another read aloud strategy might be supporting a student who struggles with reading, who struggles with visual representation. So a lot of these strategies can be used in multiple different ways, which is just what I wanted to get out of this. So just really quickly, I want to show you a lot of times with thinking about how we can design our lessons using universal design for learning. We'll spend hours, if not days, supporting educators with this. But for now, we obviously don't have that time. So just want to give you a brief overview. This is the structure in thinking about how we can think about our classrooms with universal design for learning. So what is the objective or the IEP goal or the expectation or the standard that you want your student to be able to know and do? Gaining clarity on that first so you know where you want to go. Then what are the barriers that student is going to experience that is going to make it more difficult for them to reach that objective? What are they experiencing? Once you've figured that out, what are those evidence-based, research-based strategies that you can use to remove those barriers and widen the pathway for that student to obtain that objective, right? So it's all about access, it's all about removing barriers and not about watering down that objective. Keeping that objective and that expectation high, but supporting the student to get there. So what I want to just quickly walk you through are a couple resources that we have in Goalbook that supports teachers in doing this, and hopefully will kind of give y'all some clarity on potentially how this could come to life in your classrooms. So I'm going to attempt to be familiar with this. Let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so this is our homepage right here. And just to give you some background, we have 3 really main things that we support educators with, in particularly with individualized instruction. The first is this present levels wizard that supports them in figuring out where's my student at currently with data-driven, meaningful present level drafts that they can access and edit and use. The second is once I know where my student is at, what are the standards aligned instructional content goals that I can work with them to achieve? And the third is knowing where those goals are, what are the strategies I can use? So I'm gonna kind of work backwards with y'all and focus first on the strategy wizard. So it's really easy to just kind of say, okay, know the objective, know the barriers, and know the strategies. For me to stand up here and say that, that is actually a very, very difficult thing to accomplish and do. That is what this strategy wizard supports teachers with figuring out. So if they need a strategy for maybe reading, writing, listening, speaking, math, we partner with Castle on behavior and social emotional learning. But if we think about reading, to address a barrier related to This is a difficult process as well, is really honing in on where that barrier is. Maybe it's concepts of print. Maybe it's persistence. This curates that list of evidence-based strategies for them. So they don't have to go and do their research or look on Pinterest or anything like that. It is here for them and they know that it's research-based. A lot of these are probably not rocket science, but it just gives them some support. And I'll try to find one that might be, that might be good to show y'all. So progress monitoring, for example, that's a common practice. So once you click in here, it'll give that explanation. This is kind of that snapshot of what I was showing you. And then it'll give ready to use resources for the teachers to use. So that way, once they're like, okay, this strategy looks good, they're not actually having to, or you're not actually having to create that on your own. You can just go download as a PDF or as a Word doc, so you can really tailor it to your own page and classroom. Okay, so that's just kind of our strategy wizard. You can save these to a library, so maybe we're saving for Joey. And the key thing with this is, I know that collaboration is a big buzzword, but in thinking about inclusion, all of these can be shared with the general education educators to really make sure that collaboration is authentic and genuinely happening. So maybe if I am taking a look at this at 8 p.m. at night, because I know that teachers never stop working, we can think about, okay, try using with Joey on Monday. If we save for Joey, I'll just show you where that goes. But the goal of just showing you this is just to give you an idea of really all the strategies that are out there that you can use. So if you wanted to just browse strategies, maybe you didn't have a specific barrier in mind, you could come here and see those strategies broken down by the different guidelines. And you'll notice that a lot of these happen, they're placed differently. So goal setting might be engagement, and it also might be an action and expression, like we were saying. But all of these are here for you. So if this is something that you're looking to implement in your classroom, you can definitely come and sign up for a free trial and use some of these. Okay. The other thing that I want to just quickly show you is how we also embed this into the goals and how UDL can actually not just be a supplemental strategy, but can really come to life in the classroom. So if we are thinking about that student and we want to identify an objective that we're going to be working with them, we're sticking with Joey. Now we're thinking about where we're supporting Joey. So maybe it's reading. We have a number of different realms that we support. All right, so it's not just your main core focuses, but it might be adapted PE or deaf and hard of hearing, those type of realms. So if we think about reading, we'll just stick with that. Again, these domains are aligned to the Common Core standards, so maybe informational text, what grade are they in, potentially grade 3. Then that asks you where your student is at. Are they at grade level? Maybe they're 1 or 2 grade levels below. Maybe they're 3 grade levels below. How can you support them where they're at? I'm going to just show you at grade level to show you how we scaffold from there. But if you have heard about Goalbook before, this is probably the type of page that you're most familiar with. So these are those SMART and measurable goals that can definitely be used in IEPs. These can be pretty easily, once you edit them and make them individualized, pretty easily copy and pasted to a database like SACE. And then once you're here, it just shows you, okay, maybe your student isn't ready for that specific level. Maybe they need some mild level of support to really boost them in accessing that grade level standard. So maybe a word bank of evidence or a sentence starter, right, to support them in getting there. Moderate level of support. So the important thing is there are ways to provide students access to grade level standards without watering down that standard and that expectation, all right? And these strategies can support you with doing that. So if you were to click on one of those, it would take you to a UDL strategy page. And then for each one of these, they're aligned to a standard with a core purpose. There are also progress monitoring tools as well. So in thinking about the critical standards that we really need to support our students with, we did an analysis last year. These are the ones that are the most assessed on the SBAC. They're also the ones that are showing up in that vertical alignment throughout. And then these are also the ones that the teachers were accessing the most. So for each one of these, there's that annual target. And then there's those quarterly objectives that you can edit, and you can also use an assessment that we provide to really support in progress monitoring. Are there any questions so far? Is there anything that you're like, I want to see and I wasn't able to see? Feel free. Yes.
So I couldn't read the goal from here. I could see that it was comparing and contrasting. And you mentioned a strategy was sentence starters. Did the goal have a method of expression in the goal?
Let's go ahead and take a look. Okay.
Does it
And
say
I
the
can
student
read it
will-
out to you. So for mild level of support for this specific standard, where the core purpose in parent and student-friendly language is describe the relationships between events in terms of time and cause and effect. So for a mild level of support, by whatever date, when given an independent level informational text and a prompt to describe the relationship between two events in the text, Joey will use a word bank of evidence to orally complete sentence starter to describe the relationship between the given events with two details from the text.
So if UDL wants to have multiple means of action and expression, why does the goal say how he expresses his learning? Because the goal is for him to compare these things.
Mm-hmm.
So why do we dictate the way in which he expresses that?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I think that these are definitely modeled to be in that kind of IEP language, that SMART goal. So you are also focusing on how they are showing their learning. And I think that could be definitely a time where, and that's why these are editable. So if you wanted to just use this as an objective and you didn't want to use it for that, then you could just delete it and you wouldn't have to use that.
But that's a fundamental piece, is that we would offer multiple means of action expression. So I'm dictating how Joey is going to tell me he's learned something.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So I think ideally this mean of action and expression would be catered to where Joey is at and supporting him in his specific learning style and his specific learning needs.
My thing is, it's not a writing goal.
For this.
Yeah.
Okay.
If the goal is comparing, contrasting, it's not aligned to a writing standard. If it was aligned to a writing standard, then
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yep.
But
Yep,
if it's not a
so-
writing standard, he shouldn't have to write.
Yeah, so if you take a look at this one, for example, this changes the modality. So in this case specifically, Joey would not need to write to show that he knows and he can access this standard. Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions on this? No? Okay, awesome. So we also have, which I can show just super quickly, but just something to show you new what we've been working on, which is supporting teachers in not just guessing where their student is at, but really using data-driven, a place to start with where they're at. So we can support them in drafting these meaningful data-driven present levels. And this can really support you if you are figuring out what supports my student's need or where is my student at. For each one of these, there are assessments to use and to edit and to figure out where they're at. And if you were to generate the draft present levels, it would be there for you and you can edit it and you could just then copy and paste it as well. So the idea of and what we are hoping to support educators with the design of is really figuring out where your student is at, then figuring out what you are working to accomplish with them and then with those strategies. So I didn't want to spend too much time on this, but just wanted to kind of show y'all that. So if we pop back to the PowerPoint really quickly. Sorry, let me scroll through. Okay, so this is just a quick visual explanation of what Universal Design for Learning can do. So if you just take a look at these two pictures versus these two pictures and think to yourself or with a partner for maybe 20 to 30 seconds about the difference between them or the message they're trying to get across, and then I'd love to hear a couple ideas. So on this, in case this is difficult to see, on this one there's some closed captioning on a TV. That is like a good grips for opening a can. This is Braille, and this is a wheelchair. Yes. 2 weeks. Yep. Mm-hmm.
And then it has to be either like a site or a district license of everyone, right?
Yes. Yep. Typically school site or district. Yeah. And I can give you some more. We're definitely going to finish early, so I can give you some more info on that. Yes. Yes. Sorry. So we're just taking a look at, so this side, there are some closed captionings on a TV screen, and there's a grip for a can opener. This side, there is Braille, and there is a wheelchair. So think about like the difference between these two and what we might be getting at by putting these up there. The hint is thinking about universal design for learning with that. In talking, did anyone have any ideas? Think about who and what these two might be serving. Okay, does any brave soul want to take a hit at what these might be looking to accomplish? Yes.
So the items on the left are more universal. Many people can access captions, not just someone who may have hearing issues. And on the right, it's more individual specific, low incidence usage.
Definitely. Right, so this is just, that was spot on. So this is just really hitting home the idea that universal design for learning should not just be a special education tool. This is really designed to support everyone. So if you are presenting a TV with closed captioning, you are supporting individuals who cannot hear, but you also are supporting individuals who maybe you just don't want to make noise. You're in an airport and you don't want to have the noise on your phone so you can listen to it, right? Something like that. So it can support everyone. When you're supporting one, you're supporting everyone. This is one of the most popular cartoons for Universal Design for Learning. I'm sure a lot of you have seen this before, but this is just one of our favorites. And the student who is using the wheelchair says, "Could you please shovel the ramp?" And the individual who is shoveling the stairs says, "All these other kids are waiting to use the stairs. When I get through shoveling them off, then I will clear the ramp for you." And then the individual says, "But if you shovel the ramp, we can all get in." Right? So if you're shoveling the stairs, you're leaving some individuals out. But if you're shoveling the ramp, not only are you supporting one student, you're supporting everyone, which is the idea with Universal Design for Learning. So just to close out, we're done a little early, but we wanted to make it meta for y'all. The exit tickets, which is one of the most classic classroom structures. But my colleague Jenny is passing around some Twitter exit tickets, all right? So this could be used maybe for engagement for students they're interested, especially middle school or high school, they're interested in Twitter, it'll get them engaged. Also action and expression. So one important thing you learned today that you are going to implement in your position in 143 characters or less, so in the spirit of Twitter, and then a hashtag word or unspaced phrase. So one of the hashtags you would use to identify the main idea and theme of what you learned in today's session. And then we will be around for questions, or if you wanted to see something that maybe you didn't get to see, we'd be happy to answer all of that for you.